player Nick Young has recently gotten into boxing. You know, the celebrity boxing scene, it's highly lucrative. A lot of stars, a lot of athletes, a lot of influencers are really trying to get on that cash cow that is celebrity boxing. And Nick Young is fighting Blueface and all this stuff. Well, Nick Young recently was doing interviews and stuff and, trying to remain in the spotlight and called out some people that he would like to fight in a boxing match. And one of those people that Nick Young really wants to fight and get his paws on him is DAngelo Russell. So DAngelo Russell, some guys on the Warriors, some guys on the Lakers, couple coaches. Nick Young to Chris Mannix when asked which NBA player he would like to get into the ring with. Now, this was a loaded question. Everyone knew he was going to say DAngelo Russell, primarily because, DAngelo Russell and Nick Young have a little bit of history, which we'll get into in a moment. But DLo also responded to Nick Young and basically just said, like, hey, none of that. Russell is not paying any mind to Swaggy P and maintains, I ain't doing that, which makes a ton of sense, right? DLo's in the NBA. One guy's playing in the NBA making, $25 million a year. Another guy's fighting in celebrity boxing matches. I mean, there's no comparison. However you feel about Nick Young, however you feel about DLo is the better player. He's got the career still, all of that stuff. Nick Young, I mean, there was even reports that, Nick Young is being blacklisted and this, that, and the other. J.R. Smith, he was the one that did an interview and was talking about how himself, Joe Johnson's like 38 years old or something like that. It's not because he's blacklisted, and also he threw out Nick Young. It's just Nick Young's tried to make rosters. He's had auditions and teams have tried to bring him in. And he was always one-dimensional. He was a really hot and cold, streaky shooter. The problem is we're in an NBA where teams, like, everybody can shoot nowadays. Even bigs can shoot. So, like, when you had a guy like Nick Young who was, hot and cold from three, he was a commodity. People wanted him. Same thing with J.R. Smith. He could knock down threes in a vacuum. Now, like, that's like every kid that's being drafted. I mean, even from a Lakers perspective, look at a guy like Cole Swider. Cole Swider, I mean, the dude shot like 53% from three in Summer League. Granted, Summer League and the NBA are two different things, but nonetheless, I mean, he has the skill sets and the mechanics and stuff like that to knock down threes at a reasonable rate. The 3-point game is just so much different than it was back then, several years ago even, and so many more players can knock down the three at the rate that Nick Young was knocking it down and still provide other things besides just knocking down threes. But little history lesson for those that may not know. Nick Young and DLo was drafted by the Lakers. All was looking good in the world. DLo looked like he was going to be the cornerstone and a big piece for this Lakers team. You had Nick Young, who, was meme city on the Lakers. And, DLo and Nick Young became really good friends. They hit it off really well, hit it off really great. And, they used to joke and laugh and do pressers together and all that stuff. And Kobe wasn't really feeling any of that stuff. But these two guys, Nick Young basically took DAngelo Russell under his wing. They built a friendship. They built a bond. They would joke. They would laugh. They'd hang out. It was a good time. All was right in the world. But also during this time, Nick Young was dating a, famous rapper in Iggy Azalea, who, was a big, she was a big star at that time. At the time, she was mainstream. She was, rapping. I mean, before the whole Sway in the morning thing where she did that whole freestyle or whatever it was, she was a big rapper in the game during that time. And Nick Young and her were this power couple, and they were supposed to be getting married and, living happily ever after, making babies. And one was in the NBA, one was a rapper, and all was supposed to be right in the world. Well, Nick Young was in the locker room with DAngelo Russell, and DAngelo Russell basically snitched on Nick Young. Not directly. It was more of like, I guess, a dry snitch than like a direct snitch. DLo was recording while him and Nick Young were having a conversation in the locker room, and they were just messing around. And DLo was just trying to be cute and trying to be funny. And because they'd prank each other. They'd go back and forth. Like they would just, shoot the, what with each other, make fun of each other, all of that stuff. Well, DLo was trying to do something and was basically coercing Nick Young to basically relay that he was cheating on Iggy, and recorded it. The video got out. It became a big thing. And yeah, so Nick Young ended up having to deal with that. Ends up breaking up with Iggy. I mean, he kind of took it in stride. He should have beaten the you-know-what out of DLo is what should have happened. But he did. He took it in stride. He kind of just brushed it off, wrote it off as it is what it is. Stuff happens. DLo, knucklehead kid move. I mean, there's no excuse for that. He was old enough to know, like, you don't snitch. Like, you don't do something like that. It's guy talk in the locker room. Like, I get it. You guys are just trying to, like, do pranks, be fun with each other, stuff like that. But come on, you know what you're doing. You know what's going on. DLo wasn't 11 where it's like, he's just a kid making stupid decisions. It was a big thing. And then there was a lot of questions of, like, his maturity level and stuff like that. And is he a guy that can lead this franchise and stuff? Well, eventually what ends up happening is the Lakers end up drafting Lonzo Ball and ship out DAngelo Russell, and then the rest is history. And DLo's kind of been around the way. But big ups to DLo. I mean, he matured, he grew. He's a guy that's turned into a reasonable NBA player. I wouldn't put him as a superstar or a star or, anything like that, but he is a solid guy. He would be a great, like, third option on a contender. Maybe if you have him next to a guy like Luka or something like that, where Luka's basically your number 1 and 2 option, DLo could be a great number 2. But in reality, he's like a 3 on a contender, right? He can knock down shots. He can shoot it from anywhere on the floor. He can be inconsistent at times. But even the Timberwolves, look, when DLo averaged 20 plus a game with the Timberwolves, they won like 89% of their games or like 90% of the games. And like that even translates in the playoffs. Like if you go look at like that little play-in playoff time, every time DLo scored 20 plus points, they won the game. I mean, there was even one game where DLo single-handedly was keeping them in the game and helping them win. Like nobody else was scoring, nobody else was showing up. So DLo is a solid player. Nick Young was never more than just like a role guy, a guy, your 10th man on the team. Not that bad, if we're being honest. But, he was never like a star or anything like that. He was a very one-dimensional guy. He was a guy that could go get you buckets and, knock down some 3 balls. And he had his moments. He had his years where he was better than others. But eventually faded into oblivion. And now he's doing the celebrity boxing thing and is calling out DLo. And DLo was just like, yeah, I ain't with that stuff. Now, look, if he wanted to rough DLo up, he should have done that, what was it, 7 years ago now, something like that. You don't do it like this many years later. Like, no, and he knows DLo ain't gonna do that. But here's the thing though, too, is Nick Young, he's a big jokester, he's a big goofster, he likes to, talk, he likes the attention, he likes things like that. He was like that with the Lakers, he was like that with the Wizards. Everywhere he's gone, he's been that dude. So, I don't think he's 100% serious. I think it was more of just like, just joking out. He was asked the question. He knew what they wanted to hear, so he gave them what they wanted to hear. DAngelo Russell, because everybody knows what happened between Nick Young and DAngelo Russell. And it was quite the drama. It was quite an interesting moment in time and in Lakers history, if I'm being honest. And those that remember probably can back me up on that. It was quite it was just kind of like a, really? Like that's what we're doing here? Like, and DLo it was just a bonehead, silly move, I mean, people get beat up for less. I mean, DLo's lucky. DLo is really lucky because there's a lot of people that would have done a lot more to him than just like laugh it off and just say, what happens. Because I mean, Nick Young, literally, he lost what was going to be his wife. They were like a couple months or whatever from the wedding. And then that video came out and Iggy left him, and basically, he recorded him talking, locker room talk. And then there was the whole debate like, oh, well, Nick Young shouldn't have cheated. If he didn't cheat, then that wouldn't have happened, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, yeah, you can make that. I do understand it from that perspective, but that was something that should have never gotten out. And you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what she's doing. You don't know what he's doing. Point is, he was telling DLo in confidence. He was telling him like, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. I get it from both sides, but come on, you just don't do that, especially in a locker room. Especially, I mean, you shouldn't be recording in the locker room regardless, unless you're winning the championship or everything. Everyone's like recording, partying, but like you guys are just hanging out. Shouldn't be recording in the locker room. But no, I mean, it's what he did. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't a kid. It was stupid. It was a knucklehead moment. He snitched on Nick Young. I get it. Nick Young shouldn't have done what he was doing. He shouldn't have been running around behind his girl and stuff like that. But like, you're in the locker room with your teammates that's supposed to be your boy. Nick Young was one of the few people that took him under his wing. Like they were like two peas in a pod, and you did that. You did that to your brother. So yeah, I can't get behind that. But anyway, again, love to hear your thoughts and opinions. However you feel about it, let me know down in the comment section below. Is this something you'd love to see? Would you love to see these two get in the boxing ring and kind of duke it out? Would you not? I think it would. I think it would be kind of fun. I think it'd definitely be entertaining. I think I would watch it for sure, but never going to happen. Like I said, one guy is trying to stay relevant. Another guy's in the NBA making, like I said, $25+ million a year. He's going to get a new contract next year. Some team's going to pick him up. He's going to be good. He's going to be in a good spot one way or another. But anyway, again, however you feel about it, I love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.